Okay, so we're back running. So what I'm going to do is I've got 3 jigs here to the side, and I'm just going to do a quick little show you how I paint them. So this little torch kind of messed up. I have to light it with a cigarette lighter. So anyway, I don't know if you can see the flame, but it's a going. And I'm going to take, now I can do these little small ones just holding the thing, but it's easier to do it this way because it doesn't get hot enough. Just pass it in the flame a few times, not real crazy, and just run the head in the paint, and then just pass it in front of the flame, and there it is. It's painted. And if by some accident you end up burning it, then just heat it and stick it back in the paint. But do be careful. Don't run it too long in the flame, because what you'll end up doing is melting it. And in here, I got a little too much, which I guess could be like an eyeball. I don't know. Makes the head a little misshapen, but you can kind of heat it a little extra and it will kind of flatten out. Now, the only extra step is if you want eyeballies. So let me do this last white one. So anyway, like I said, be careful about running it in the flame for too long, because when you're heating it up to paint it, because what you'll end up doing is melting that lead head. Sometimes you may have to do it a couple times. You want to make sure that your paint, which is basically powder coat paint, you could go to Harbor Freight and get one of those big powder coat deals and last forever. Now those two right there touched while they were still drying off. Okay, and so it's that simple. These are already completely dried. Don't take but a second to dry out. So I have different colored paints. And so let's do one of these big ones. I'm just going to put some eyes on it. And that way you can kind of see, what's what. I think what I'll do, if I can find my paint, yes, it's down here. Hopefully it's not dried out. If my paint's dried out, then we may not be able to do this. Uh, but in all honesty, I don't see where you need any kind of special uh, paint, because let me show you what I'm going to do. This paint right here is from Paint by Numbers or something like that. And what I did was I got some of these little plastic skewers. And they're not exactly skewers. They're more like, I don't know, toothpicks maybe to hold food and stuff together. So I don't want my biggest one, but I cut them off at different lengths to make a flat end on it that is, this blunt. And so I'm going to take my second to smallest, set it to the side, and I'm going to open up the white, which appears to still be good. And I'm going to stick it in there. Let me do this. Yeah, it needs to be stirred up. Sorry, I just decided to do this on the fly, and so I apologize that I was not prepared. Make the video a little longer, but I can fast forward through this junk right here. So all right. So you may have figured it out. I'm going to use this to dot it. So I'm just going to stick the tip in so that I got paint just on that flat part. All right. Now see if I can get my lid closed. And so again, like I said, this is just paint by numbers paint. And I don't have red, but I do have this kind of reddish orange. And that is what I'm going to use. And it is almost hard as the proverbial brick bat. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use any of it. That's just too bad. Okay, so that's just no good anymore. I could probably put something in it, but possibly water would probably reconstitute it. Now this was almost, but I can potentially. I think this paint by numbers paint, you can just put water in it and it'll be just good. Just as fine as the day it was made. But I would like to have some that's really wet. So the orange, the dark orange and the light orange isn't good. Now this does look kind of wet here. Well, no. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be blue. That's fine. I would have preferred red, but we're going to use what we got. So I'll probably take and put some water in those other colors to hopefully bring those back. So, and you can do this with a toothpick. You can just take a regular toothpick and cut it off to different lengths up the taper to make smaller and larger, surfaces. So, and this is still wet. Now, okay, I don't have any color mix there. All right. Now, just keep in mind that this adds extra steps to your jig making process, and really makes it take longer, which, I mean, it's no big deal. I mean, technically you're making your own jigs because you enjoy it, and that's a part of the process that actually does good for you. Now I'm going to have to zoom in on this here to see that eye. but it is every bit as good as what you would see on a factory one. And so we just have to let them set and dry before we could tie the tie on these particular jigs. But and I don't. You can probably see up above on the overhead shot how I've got my bar coming out that I would basically usually hang my fly tying thingy bobbin holder onto while I'm doing something else. But we're gonna let this dry, and then once we dry, we're gonna come back, and I'm gonna coat over it with some Sally Hansen Tough as Nails, and that will seal those eyes in, so that I don't have to worry about you know it being in the water and the eyes dissolving or anything like that. You could put super glue and put just regular eyes, googly eyes, or anything. But you can see the difference in these two jig heads here. And you can see why you're going to need multiple size toothpick tips, because if you took the one I used on this jig head and did this, you'd pretty much dot the whole head. And so you just get different sized toothpicks and dip it in the paint. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter what kind or type of paint that you're using, because you're going to coat this with Sally Hansen's Tough as Nails, and that will seal that jig head out so that you don't have to worry about um, it dissolving. So another step, let me see these. Let's see these jigs that I just painted. See this one, the eye didn't seal up. And then the white one, it just barely did, and a lot of it sealed up on the dark one. Now these larger jigs, that one's sealed up, and I'll have to do this on them. But what I have is what's called a pin vise. They're used in machining a lot of times because you will just take and put a drill bit in the end of them for some small intricate work that you're going to do by hand, and that's it. And other bits store in the handle. And I've got multiple sizes bits in the handle of this. I don't recommend you do what I'm fixing to do. But this drill bit will go through these tiny eyelets on the smaller jig heads. Definitely go through this this one right here, which is a smaller one. Definitely go through this big one. But I'm going to line it up with that eye, and I'm just going to slowly turn that drill bit. And you can see the paint, or I can, I'm not sure if you can, see the paint flaking off. Now, it's getting ready to go through, so I'm going to stop on that side and come over to the other side and start drilling it. And you don't want to put a whole lot of pressure, especially me, because I just poked that sucker right through, put a drill bit in my finger. So now that I'm getting close to coming through, get my fingers out of the way, and then there we go. The eyelet is cleared out. Now some of your paint does flake off that eyelet on the head. That's fine. It don't come off the head. It just comes off that eye hook, and so you're not out anything, and it doesn't do, it's not destructive to it. Now, when I first started painting jig heads, what I would do was just too long and drawn out, because I would take and I would do the jig heads just like powder coating. And I would take and coat my jig heads with the paint, and you can take, and I don't know if you know this, but you can take these jig heads while they're lead, and you can put them in a plastic bowl with um, plastic beads, and you can roll them around, and that will make them static. That will make them static electricity. Sounds kind of weird, but that will give them a static charge so that the powder coat paint will stick to them. And then all you do is hang them in an oven, and I think it's like 400 degrees or 450 degrees for 15-20 minutes or something like that, or maybe 5 minutes. It's been so long since I've done it like that. Same way I powder coat bullets, but bullets are more specific. You can't really get them to you can't just be frivolous with the temperature that you do a bullet at, because what you'll end up doing is making it brittle like it is on these, because I'm just doing these by hand, but you'll make it brittle like it is on these, and it won't do right, and it'll actually mess with your accuracy on that bullet. And so what you'll want to do with those is you want to take and do the temperature just right. And like I said, I don't 100% remember the exact temperature, but you want to get your temperature exactly right. You don't want to go for too long. As soon as the powder coat flows, then you pull it out and you take one of the bullets and you set it down, and you take a hammer and you smash it. And if the paint pops off, then you messed up and you're going to have to redo it. Which those are, you just melt those back down and just start over from scratch. But if the paint compresses with the bullet and just squishes, then you did it perfect. And that would be the same difference here with this, only, I'm not, it's, you don't have to be that specific. The life of the jig is probably not going to last long enough to for the paint to just completely flake off of it. So you're not really gonna, it's not gonna be a reason to be that perfect, is what I'm, well, is what I'm trying to say. uh and if I remember, probably when I did these, they were probably done like that. That's been, like I said, long time ago. um and there's really no reason why you couldn't take these jig heads and mount them in a little vise and use a Dremel. And I'm putting it up against the table to speed the process up, because I can put more pressure on it. But you want to be careful, because you could break this little tiny drill bit. And so now that is cleared out. And then I'll do the same on that one once it's dried. So anyway, that's the process as far as that. Now what we're going to do is break away. I'm going to let this finish drying, and then I'm going to come back, and what I'll probably do is we'll tie it, and then I'll coat it with Sally Hansen's as the last part of the process, and we'll be done. So let's see. What I did was take the collar off of all of these, so I wouldn't have to keep worrying about that dead boing collar. And I've got two different sets. You can see the hook size. The jig heads, and we'll have to zoom in on this, but the jig heads are the same size and weight, but the hooks are bigger on these. And so we're going to do some really small jigs because I think it's pretty cool once you get, really lined out and doing some small jigs. On YouTube, I've just got back into watching him, but I've watched Dave McPheel, DAVE space MCPHILE or EL. I can't remember exactly how it's spelled, but I think he's Scottish. But that guy can tie some stuff, and it is cool. It looks good, very enjoyable. So anyway, when we come back, we're going to tie this jig. Oh, and if you like this content, please like and subscribe. If not, subscribe anyway, because you're going to find something you like. I enjoyed being here with you. Your time is very important to me, and I thank you for spending it here with me. Thanks, and God bless.